is the Pegasus Podcast, presented by Night Sports Now. UCF news, views, and a few hot takes. Now, here are your hosts, Bailey Go Knights Adams and Christian Charge On Simmons.
Welcome into episode 309. Be sure you're following us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. You can also email us at PegasusPodcast@ksn@gmail.com. Surprise! We're together for this episode. So we thought the internet issues of last week were so bad. I was like, yeah, I'll just drive on I-4 in the dark to get here. I don't know why I said in the dark. Like I could have just said at night after work. But yeah, I'm here. We're here.
Am I allowed to out like bad things you do in your life on the podcast?
No.
You don't want me to say what I was going to say?
I'd rather you not.
Okay, never mind then. It's nothing that bad. Well, I actually think it is pretty bad. I actually think it is pretty bad, but okay, fine. We won't go there.
Subscribe to Pegasus Podcast Plus.
Subscribe to Pegasus Podcast Plus, and we'll talk about things Bailey does that he probably shouldn't. But anyway, we don't have to go there. Yeah, we're in person this week. If you're listening to the audio, you probably didn't understand what that was all about. But yeah. We're here. I feel like we're having like the equivalent of like an 8th grade sleepover right now. The food is pizza and donuts, and we're watching Monday Night Football, but we're taking a break to do a podcast.
Yeah.
You're here for a Magic game, by the way.
Yes, that is the real reason here. We're going to
go Magic Charge On.
See the Magic game on Tuesday night. But yeah, we're here. I'm excited.
Podcast.
Yeah. Well, I said I'm excited, and like as we were getting ready to do the podcast, we're like, oh yeah, like we still have to do that.
Yeah, this is what we do. We were really locked in on Eagles and what's it?
Eagles and Chargers.
Yeah. But we're taking a break here to deliver to you a great podcast. You know who else is taking a break? UCF from playing a bowl game.
Sure. As is everyone.
Apparently.
But yeah, so last time we talked to you, I don't even think we had any kind of inclination or thought that, hey, UCF like is far enough down the list, they probably won't be asked to participate in the bowl game. But that was before we knew that K-State was going to say no, Iowa State was going to say no, Notre Dame was going to say no, everybody else was going to say no, and then eventually they got far enough down the list where we're like, oh yeah, UCF must have passed. And yeah, that was the case. UCF passed on a bowl game, which good.
Yeah, so the reports out there are that UCF did decline a bowl bid, which, does not make them unique. So in case you don't, I'm assuming most of our listeners realize this, but in case you don't follow wider college football, Kansas State, Iowa State, and Notre Dame declining bowl bids was like a shocking development for college football.
And an awful development for college football.
All of those teams qualified for bowls. Kansas State was 6-6, Iowa State was 8-4, Notre Dame was the number 12 team in the country and 10-2. Now, Kansas State and Iowa State, while I don't agree with the decision, I at least understand where they're coming from because both of their coaches unexpectedly stepped down. Kansas State's coach retired. Iowa State's coach left for Penn State. I understand, I don't agree with it, but I can understand how in those situations players might not want to play. Notre Dame, through what by any metric will go down as the greatest hissy fit in the history of American sports, and they missed the playoff by one spot and immediately announced that they weren't going to play in a bowl game. And as of today, we'll see how it's developed by the time you guys listen tomorrow, as of today has blamed the ACC for not shilling for them, even though they are not a member of the ACC in football. And the ACC had to release a statement and go, we really value Notre Dame, but what the hell are you talking about? You're not in our conference.
Irreparable damage to their relationship together.
On top of that, another detail, if you don't follow wider college football, was Ross Dellinger revealed that starting next year, because the playoff contract is changing, even though the playoff itself is seemingly not changing because they couldn't agree on a new format, in the new language, Notre Dame is guaranteed a spot in the playoff as long as they have a top 12 ranking. So
I hate this sport now, I think. Sound like Scott Frost.
But basically what happened was Miami made the playoff over a team that it beat in the regular season, and the domino effects of that were UCF having to turn down a bowl. So that's where we're at. I didn't want to talk about this because were you surprised or not by the percentage of UCF Twitter that seemed outraged?
So what's funny is I missed all of it.
Okay.
So I was covering the Bucks game, as I do on Sundays. And while this was all going on, I was getting texts from you and sort of following on the timeline, what was happening with college football and all the bowl bids being declined. I didn't see until today that there were a lot of people for some reason I was seeing tweets from 20 hours ago that were why would UCF do this? Whether they should have done a bowl. I'm people are mad at Terry Mahajer and saying see this is why he should be fired. No, like I said on last week's podcast, that's not why he should be fired. But I don't understand why did y'all want to watch this team play another game that they didn't earn and would have lost, and Nobody would have had what it would have done is would have given us another chance to go into a game and be like, oh yeah, they might be able to win this game. Watch them be the same pretty bad team they were all season, and then get on the podcast and get on social media afterwards and be like, this was all a disaster. But no, we're moving on to 2026.
I feel like the one caveat I should throw out is, like I said, it's been reported that they declined a bowl. There are a lot of teams on the list. Some of them have refuted since, like Temple claims that they were offered a bowl and while deciding got passed up. So like take with the grain of salt, but the bottom line is UCF was in line to go to a bowl, and if they really wanted to go to one, they probably could have. Everything you just said is true. The other detail that I feel like the fan base is kind of missing is even if they wanted to, I just don't know if it's a logistical possibility for them to go to a bowl. If you got like, guys, I know that it's nice to like sometimes think that this is actually a video game and you can just do whatever you want, but the semester has ended. The team has disbanded and scattered back to everywhere they're from. Many players have either hit the portal or are planning to hit the portal, including the quarterbacks. And more players have been like encouraged to enter the portal, if you want to say that. Like, the idea of UCF accepting the bowl, there isn't a team on campus to accept the bowl. Like, guys, the season's over, the team disbanded. There is not a team in place to go to a bowl. And even if, like, say that for some reason Brett Yormark, like, pulled out a gun and was like, he took one of the Red Raiders pistols and was like, listen up, UCF, you're going to that damn bowl. Because they did fine Kansas State and Iowa State. A fine that I don't think UCF could pay. Yeah. But I believe UCF and Baylor, who were the Big 12 teams who were 5-7 and declined, I think they're off the hook because, like, I think it was like the equivalent of you're just like eating popcorn and someone busts in and it's like, we're going downtown. You're like, I can't go downtown.
Did I just get drafted? Like, it's a little sass. Like, I don't,
So, but like, say that it happens. Say Brett Yormark takes one of the Red Raiders pistols and is like, you listen up, UCF. You're going to play in the Birmingham Bowl. You're going to play Georgia Southern. You're going to like it. We would have had to see, at best, a Davi Belfort and Brock Hansel. That's your QB1 and QB2. There is the other players, even ones who like aren't officially in the portal yet, who may end up in the portal. There is no way with the team scattered you get everybody back. There is absolutely no way you get all the seniors back. You are fielding like a joke of a team. Like, I really do not. It would have been insane for UCF to do that. Oh, and also on top of all that, you're extending Scott Frost's contract. Let's not forget that detail. So I really like. I get if you don't understand the world you live in. I get how you can just be like, they're losers. They don't want to challenge themselves. It's like, guys, we live in the real world where there are actual logistical hurdles that have to be dealt with for things to happen. Going to a bowl game and assembling a team and all of that to go to a bowl game is not an easy thing when the team is gone. The 2025 UCF team no longer exists. It is scattered. You want a bowl game for a team that doesn't exist anymore.
We mentioned Notre Dame, and I think I read they said like Notre Dame, I guess the players voted and they were like, yeah, we're not going to do a bowl. Is that true? Because I don't know, even if it's not. If you were UCF and you said, all right, let's put it up to a vote for our players to decide whether we want to do this, how would they have done that? They would have had to send out like a Google link. Like they can't just have a team meeting unless they all do it through Zoom.
It would have created so many bad situations.
It would not have worked. And
UCF would have been like calling in like contracts, like it says in your rev share deal, you have to play in the bowl, so you need to come back. It would have been messy. And for what? For half a team to go to a bowl game. That doesn't matter. To
go 5-8. 5-7 is already gross enough. 5-8 is up there with the worst records you can imagine.
I really, like I said, I'm not saying that I'm happy with UCF not going to a bowl. I'm not saying I'm pro what Notre Dame just pulled. That I think that's ridiculous, and I think Notre Dame should be ashamed of themselves, and I think we should all join hands and shame them as society. But man, I want UCF to go to a bowl in a situation where they've earned it, a situation where they've had a winning season and now get to go extend that season with a group of players because of the success they had. I don't want it to be, we just finished a season where they couldn't do anything and the offense didn't exist. And the non-existent offense has now had parts enter the portal and we're like, get back here. You got to go play Georgia Southern.
After being the fifth or sixth team down the list because everybody else was like, no, we also can't do this.
There's also all these UCF fans on Twitter who are like acting like UCF was going to the Pop-Tarts Bowl or something. It probably would have been Georgia Southern in the Birmingham Bowl. That was the spot that they were struggling to fill.
No, that's what we're missing out on.
I would have loved to go to Birmingham in 2 weeks to watch them play Georgia Southern. That would have been great. We would have all felt better. You know what's stupid too is we would have. If UCF went out there, if UCF, like I said, if we're in Brett Yormark with the Red Raiders pistol world, and they had gone to Birmingham and they had beaten Georgia Southern, we all would have felt better about the team. We would have been like, hey, I feel more optimistic about Scott Frost for no reason. But that's what would have happened.
They went to a bowl game and they won it.
And if they lost, it would have been like the Scott Frost experiment is over and it was a failure. That's what would have happened.
Yeah, no, it's better that we just avoided it altogether. And I was shocked. Like I said, I did not see all of this going on Twitter on Sunday and saw it all after the fact today. And I was like, I didn't think anybody would want them to have accepted this.
Yeah.
That's stunned me.
Apparently a lot of people.
I don't understand it. But anything else?
No, that's kind of it.
Wider college football, or we don't. I guess we don't have 2 hours. Actually, we do. We have whatever much time we want. But
I just can't believe Notre Dame said if we don't make the playoff, we're not going to a bowl, man. I saw someone put up a tweet that I thought was so accurate of like, imagine being like a senior on Notre Dame's team who you're sitting there wondering like, oh, I hope we make the playoff, and then it's like, not only did you not make the playoff, your career's over.
So that's what I saw. I saw that tweet, and I saw someone, and I don't know if it's even true, but I saw someone in response to that was like, oh, the team voted on it. I don't even know if I believe that. The more that I say that,
I don't. So like, I know that Kansas State said that their team voted on it. Did Notre Dame say their team voted on it?
I don't know if Notre Dame said it. I saw one person on Twitter say it, and I decided, all right, that's probably true. So I don't know if they put out a statement or something, or
the decision was also made so fast. It was like they missed the playoff an hour later.
It's like they had like already talked about it, and they were like, we're not.
Well, but even beyond that, to me, it just signals it's like if you let the players vote, then you put them in a bad situation where you force them to make an emotional decision. Yeah. Would they have felt that way 2 days later? Oh, no, yeah, I mean, in the 30 minutes after they've been stunned to find out that they don't make the playoff.
They were the ones that would have gone to the Pop-Tarts Bowl, right?
It was going to be BYU versus Notre Dame in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which would have been electric.
Yeah. That makes me so mad. That makes me even madder than if they just turned down whatever a worse matchup. But
I was worried it was going to set a precedent because after Kansas State, Iowa State, I was like, "Whoa, are we actually witnessing the death of the bowl system?" But Notre Dame's being so ridiculed, I'm like, maybe we just needed to bring back shame. Like maybe we're going to be okay now. So,
yeah,
guys, bowl games don't. We talked about in some past podcasts. The playoff has, unfortunately, and it's why it had to expand, it sucked the oxygen out of the entire rest of the postseason. Bowls do not mean what they used to mean. That's fine. It is what it is. But there is such a step in my brain from like bowls are just kind of these fun things and some of the best players who are in the NFL don't play to like, no, teams are just going to refuse them. Like you cannot do a 12-team playoff for 136 teams and 68 power teams and say, yeah, and anyone who doesn't make it, there's no point for them to consider their season.
Yeah,
we can't.
And I was seeing people like agree with what Notre Dame. Like, oh, why would Notre Dame even want to do that? Like, it's a meaningless game. It's a meaningless game. It's like, and people were rightfully hitting back and saying like, oh, I forgot that like people like college football fans don't like college football. They don't like watching football. They just like arguing about stuff online. Like that's true for way too many people because it's just like, yeah, I would have liked to see that matchup. It would have been fun. Would have enjoyed it. Whoever would have opted out for the NFL would have opted out. Sure, that's the decision they have to make for their future. That's fine. That started years ago, and it, I understand it, and whatever. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about it's meaningless. So the entire team's just gonna say, yeah, no, we'd rather end our season now. It's just crazy to me.
You're a Taylor Swift enjoyer, right?
Yes.
There's some sort of Taylor Swift lyric about like you wouldn't survive a house that I was in or something.
You wouldn't last an hour in the asylum where they raised.
Okay. Hey, Notre Dame. UCF won 25 games in a row and could not come close to making the playoff. 25 games in a row, and you're pissed because you went 10-2. Like that's the other part of this that I want to be clear about that's driving me crazy is I could have sympathy in the 4-team era. When we're talking about 12 teams like BYU, I was upset that BYU is not a bigger part of the conversation. I thought that was unfortunate. But at the same time, when it's a 12-team playoff, I don't give a shit. If you're like 10-2 and you're the 11th or 12th or 13th team in the country, you don't own anything. You have not earned anything. Like this notion that we need to have. I just cursed. I probably should have done that. Fine. Apologies. We'll put the explicit label on there. Sorry if you have children who listen to this for some reason. But like that's the part that's been getting lost to me too. Is we're acting like it's the same outrage of like when FSU went undefeated and didn't make it. They're not. They're fine. They're just an okay mid-level team because the playoffs big enough now. We put those teams in. And that's great. I was a fan of the expanded playoff, but I'm not going to feel bad for the ones who miss it. Like, what are we doing? If this was 3 years ago, Notre Dame wouldn't have even been in the playoff conversation. Period. They never would have been discussed once.
So that's the thing where it's like I think they're good. Like I thought they were a good team. I thought they had a good resume. Their losses were to the two playoff teams. They were close losses early in the season. Whatever. You could make an argument that they're one of the best 12 teams right now. Sure,
absolutely.
But so that's where, and I think we talked about this a little bit before, like when I actually got here earlier. It was like the team that like I would be mad about not getting in over Miami. I would be mad about not getting in over Alabama. That's a whole different thing. Whatever. It's just doesn't seem like that's what they're even mad about. I don't understand it.
What their AD said he's mad about, and I get where he's coming from here, was the playoff committee, which this has been the worst committee in the history of college. Like I think the committee is going to be changing dramatically because of how bad a job this committee did. Like seriously, it's shocking how bad it was. But they feel bait and switch because the committee inexplicably and was called out for me inexplicable, kept Notre Dame ahead of Miami the entire season despite the head-to-head. And every week Hunter Yurachek would go on TV and go, what are your questions? And everyone's question would be, why is Notre Dame ahead of Miami? And he'd go, good question.
Yeah.
And just disappear from the TV. And then after doing that for weeks, the final rankings where neither team has played, he flips them. And what's frustrating about that is it was the right call. Miami and Notre Dame had the same record, similar strength of schedule, and Miami beat Notre Dame. The game's half matter. It was the right choice. Notre Dame felt bait and switch because the committee, for absolutely no reason, kept them in the opposite order for 6 weeks before flipping them. So I get the frustration, but Notre Dame's reaction being A, we're going to quit our season. B, we're going to start a war with the ACC, and C,
a conference that we're not in.
a conference we're not in, and C, we're going to be pissed that the ACC didn't go after their own teams to pump us up.
The whole thing is like, yeah. So they're affiliated with the ACC and like other sports, like basketball and whatever.
They're in the ACC for everything except football.
Yeah. And so now you're talking about this irreparably damaging your relationship with this conference in other sports. And I know like they do schedule a lot of ACC teams and whatever. There's some kind of weird working relationship there, but it's
I think they rotate through. They play 5 ACC games every year.
Yeah.
There's like the conference they're closest tied to is the ACC. There's no doubt about it.
They're
not in the ACC. And not only are they not in the ACC, I'm not a Notre Dame hater, guys. Bailey can back me on this. I've never been a Notre Dame hater. I don't have the same like vicious whatever that a lot of people have for them.
I've long hated Notre Dame. You've always been like, I don't really get that.
I don't get it.
Them?
Oh, I'm getting it now.
There you go.
When you are the team, like they have somehow done two things at once. They have been the program that says the thing we love most about us is our independence, and also said, how dare the ACC not light the pitchforks, carry the pitchforks and light the torches and lead our charge into the playoff over their team, over a team that's in the ACC. It is seriously just the biggest. I mean, man, UCF claimed a national championship that no one understands, and Notre Dame made that look like light work. Like, this is insane that they said we're done with our season because you didn't put us in over a team that beat us.
Yeah.
Crazy. And somehow in all that, UCF had to decline a bowl bid.
Bringing it back to UCF.
Bringing it way back. Why don't we talk about this past season that was so
good? Let's do it. Now that we can officially say that the season is over, we were waiting on seeing if they were – what are you looking at?
It's weird that I can see your notes. Go ahead.
We were waiting to see if the season could be officially over. I had to make sure they, after all these other teams denied bowl games, that they did so as well. We're going to do our UCF 2025 season awards. Kind of really the last, I think, we'll speak directly about the 2025 season because
maybe ever
soon enough, the portal will open. We'll have some updates on next year's team, and we'll be able to look ahead. But one more look back. We're going to do our we have 6 awards here to do. I guess I would call maybe 4 of them awards and 2 more just opinions we have. But start with our offensive MVPs. And I believe... By
the way, can I say really quickly before we get into our offensive MVPs, the Pegasus Podcast Awards are prestigious and something we've done every year. We did not do them last year because Gus Malzahn quit to be FSU's offensive coordinator.
The day after the season.
They went on to win a national championship behind one of the best offenses in college football. Shout out Gus Malzahn. Oh, wait, no, that's right. It was a total failure. But they are bad. I just want to be clear that was only because of a coaching change.
Also declined a bowl, right?
These are, yes, FSU was also on the list of teams who was surprise offered a bowl and said, no, please don't make us do that. But anyway, these are incredibly prestigious awards. Like, it's kind of like the Oscars in this. So we will be doing this every year that there isn't a coaching change. But anyway.
Sure. Offensive MVP. Go for it.
Dylan Wade.
Do
you think we're going to match on all of these I asked you about? Well, I know there's one.
There's one that I think
we might.
The other ones we probably will. Maybe we won't. I don't know. But yeah, Dylan Wade, there were not a lot of options on the offense. I think in a lot of years, the quarterback is like more or less going to be a shoo-in for this. Like I think that's going to happen a lot. Not the case this year. They didn't even really have much of a case for a running back through this year, even a receiver. It was Dylan Wade being the guy with the most impressive resume for this. He set single-season UCF tight end records for receptions with 43, receiving yards of 523, and touchdowns with 5. I think by far and away, he was like the one pretty consistent guy on this offense.
And we kind of saw that coming when they picked him up. That was a pretty big get to pluck him from Maryland. We felt really optimistic about that. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like this offense was a sea of uncertainty. It was just random nonsense every game. And he was like one of the very few, maybe the only like shining lights in that offense that you just knew you were going to get from every game. And I'm awarding him this award again, just because it's prestigious and he deserves it, but also because I'm very hopeful that UCF can hold on to him for next season. I'm not saying they're not going to. We haven't heard anything one way or the other. It's just this is modern college football, and he had an excellent season, so I'm sure there will be a market for him. But for him to do what he did, for him to have a record-setting season for a tight end at UCF with this offense, the worst offense we've seen from this team in probably since 2015, we know UCF's reloading next year. We know that they have big plans. I think that he can be an incredible weapon in Frost's offense when he's surrounded by a real team and with a better offensive line and with a better quarterback. Like, I am so bullish on what he can be in 2026 if he sticks with UCF. I think he can be an all-conference type player. I'm so excited about that. And it's just cool that we hoped, and we talked about this past offseason, there's a couple other guys on this list that we'll talk about for that too, is one of the things that we hoped we would take away from the 2025 season is we knew things might not be all rosy, but we hoped there would be pieces. Guys where we can go into 26 and say, we're excited to see those guys back. Dylan Wade's like number one on that list if they can hold on to him.
Yeah, and you talk about like last offseason when they landed him from Maryland, like they had just lost Randy Pittman.
Yep. And
that felt like a huge loss. And yeah, I would have rather not have lost him, but Dylan Wade, like even when they picked up Dylan Wade, I was like, okay, like, I think they'll be fine. Like, not to say anything against Pittman, but it was just like that was that big of a get at the time. And to see it all play out the way it did, and he was a sophomore, right?
Yep.
And yeah, I couldn't be more excited. Like, if they can keep him around, he would be up there among your Wade and Charleses. Really Wade and Charles, I guess him and Dwayne Thomas are like the three that I think you can build around going into next year. But
by the way, he like blew away Randy Pittman. Randy Pittman's stats this year were 23 catches for 208 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So like they lost Randy Pittman, which was a huge deal and very unfortunate. And I think, can I say upgraded?
Yeah, I think
they
so.
Upgraded.
I think so.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I had a couple honorable mentions because there really weren't a lot of options.
The offensive line, of course.
Jaden Nixon, who they didn't even really use as their number one running back. He had 71 rushes for 554 yards. He averaged 7.8 yards per carry. Yeah.
But Miles Montgomery was the team captain.
7 rushing touchdowns, which was the team lead. He also had that 96-yard kickoff return touchdown against A&T. And then the other one I would mention, the guy I just mentioned, Dwayne Thomas Jr., 53 catches, 528 yards. He had 11 yards per catch. Surprised? I don't know if this is telling on myself, but I was surprised. He didn't score a touchdown this year.
No, I know. I saw that. I was looking through too.
Surprised me.
Listen, there were not a lot of passing touchdowns to go around on the 2025 UCF team, so I think that probably hurt him. But yeah,
that is true. Defensive MVP.
This is where we're going to differ.
Yeah. I chose Malachi Lawrence, who I mentioned on the last episode was awarded with a first-team All-Big 12 honors, and rightfully so. 7 sacks to lead the team, 2 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles. I think he was just a constant presence on this defense, and it was a very good defense. There were definitely more options here than there were on the offense, but I think the guy that was just the most consistent producer, as far as I'm concerned, I think is.
I'm not going to fight with you on that. I mean, all Big 12. He was an incredible player in his time. He had a long UCF career, which is you kind of see less and less these days, obviously, just because college football has changed. But no, he had an excellent season. I don't really think I might be wrong. I think you're correct. Like, he's probably the defensive MVP. But
you can say yours.
But these are they're equally prestigious, the Pegasus Podcast Awards, both the ones presented by Bailey and me. So congrats to your co-winners, Malachi Lawrence and Philip Dunham, my pick. Philip Dunham this year, he finished with 60 tackles, 3 TFLs, 3 interceptions, all of which came courtesy of the same quarterback. The thing about Philip Dunham that really stood out to me this year was, and part of it is I totally bought on the offseason hype on him too. He just felt like the type of guy who, game in and game out, if you were paying attention to it, he just had such an impact on every play. It was really just like one of the leaders of the defense and a guy who could make a difference in a lot of different ways, and really was a playmaker for UCF on defense and played a big role, as Malachi Lawrence did, as a few other guys did, in helping this defense really not disappoint anyway. It was a good defense, honestly.
I think that's kind of what's cool, and we said it about Dylan Wade, but it's kind of cool that there were some of these guys that in the offseason they went out and picked up, and we heard some good things about them throughout the offseason and throughout the fall, and we were kind of like, all right, we'll see what we get from them. And those two especially, they really followed through on that hype. And there are other guys they got in the portal that panned out. And that's one thing that you can kind of hang your hat on as far as evaluation, is that they hit on a lot of these guys, and there were a lot of options. We'll talk a little bit later about the breakout transfer, and there were so many options for it because they evaluated well, and they went out and got a lot of really good players.
This portal class, as rough as the roster was as a whole, just because the sheer number of guys they had to add, this portal class to me was unquestionably more impressive than any Gus portal class, which is saying a lot because this is This was a slapdash operation compared to what Gus had to work with. Can I bring up something else really quickly?
Yeah.
That you have me thinking about here live?
Yeah.
Well, we're not live, but there were guys who we heard things about in spring and fall. Philip Dunham, for example, Lewis Carter, for example, Dylan Wade, for example. And I don't recall, I think everyone we heard about lived
Cole
up to
Kozlowski
it.
too, I think.
Cole Kozlowski, like it was, we would hear things and then those guys lived up to it.
Yeah.
The same thing would happen with Gus. We'd hear things about guys, but it was like more than a few times you and me would have to have the conversation of, wow, that was probably a mistake to hype up. Like they were just wrong a lot.
Didn't we hear I think especially his freshman year that Burdell
Richardson was like the next big thing.
Yeah. The one guy I think, his name's going to slip my mind. Who was it? Well, can't say that anymore. There was one, who was the defensive back, started out of nowhere, played a role out of nowhere. I think he's transferred out since then. Was that, wow, I'm drawing a complete blank.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
He had a good spring game one year, and we were like, oh, wow, he was he was like not one of the highest rated. Was it Chasen Johnson? Was it him?
I was going to say, it sounds like you're talking about
It might have been Chasen Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. I'm glad I found
he lived up to the hype.
Yeah, he did.
It did seem
That's
like
what I'm saying.
Gus,
He's the one guy under that regime where it was like, yeah, we finally did hear. We heard that, but you're right. I think
there would be guys where it's like the word would get put out, like, hey, they're having a really good spring. Like keep an eye on them, and then we get to the season, it's like, whoops, and I just never understood that. But with Frost, the names we heard pretty much lined up. Those guys ended up being really impactful players. So yeah, you know
who else did live up to it?
Who?
Very, very early on, Mikey Keene.
Hot button topic.
Because we heard early on, and they made him as a true freshman. They made him the backup quarterback.
Yep.
That ended
up being false advertising. Gus Malzahn, in the span of 8 months, named Mikey Keene backup quarterback, which was like a very big surprise. And then on still one of the most historic moments in UCF history, when they did that, when JP Gilbert and SJ Toohey did a Twitter Spaces together, where SJ Toohey, now an athletic director, by the way, was just saying things you should not be saying. He was basically just like trashing Mikey Keenan. Like we knew he wasn't the guy. Gus knew we couldn't rely on him.
Gus said after the Gasparilla Bowl that they had to go out and get a quarterback. And yeah,
look, I know this season was not fun for stretches, but man, sometimes I just literally have to think to myself, Gus Malzahn is not the head coach of this team anymore. And I think that's great. Also, I don't know if we ever touched on this since the end of the season. Scott Frost did what you asked. They did not have a prolonged losing streak at any point during the season.
Did they not?
No.
They lost what, 3, right?
They never lost more than 3 in a row.
Okay.
That was your exact criteria.
It had to be more than 3?
Damn right you'll give it. That's exactly what we said on the podcast. You said they can't go more than 3.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Yes.
That's fine.
Good job,
Scott.
Real
close. I've had some honorable mentions, too, for defensive MVP. Lewis Carter, the team's leading tackler with 92 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles as well. Nigel Kelly, 3 sacks, 3 passes defended, 1 interception, and 2 forced fumbles. Obviously, Philip Dunham as well. Really good defense. That's what I think I'll remember about this team is like
it's very similar to 2016.
Yeah, wasn't very fun to watch, but the defense was solid, and I think they have a chance to come back and be a pretty good defense again next year.
Other than quarterback, 2016 and 2025 were just the same freaking season.
Which is, again, not to give ourselves credit, but also to give us credit. Said that all off season.
Yeah.
And that also kind of played out that way. So, like, that's why it's funny, like, any of the vitriol that's coming out, like, after this season, it's like we expected almost everything that happened. So
I know. I think the vitriol for this season, it's not just about this season.
No.
It's just that we're 3 years into the Big 12, and it's just fans are just having to watch the team lose games over and over. Like, it's too bad that Frost has to carry the burden of what came before him, because fans are just kind of, he's like, guys, I just got here, but like fans are over it. But I don't think it's about this season. I think it's about 3 years in the Big 12. BYU, Houston, and Cincinnati have all had their moments in there, and UCF really just hasn't. It's just been mostly losing for 3 years.
Yeah. Breakout transfer. Who'd you got?
I had Lewis Carter.
I did as well.
I think we might be. I think we might be.
The reason I said I wasn't sure if we were going to match up on all of them. I knew we weren't on defensive MVP, but I was curious. I didn't know if you doubled up on any. Like, we could give it to Dylan Wade also. Like,
I could have done that. He absolutely could have. We'll mail him a trophy for that too. But yeah, I picked Lewis Carter.
Yeah, Lewis Carter, who I just mentioned, 92 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. It was nice. Cole Kozlowski is another one who could have been on there. I think I have his stats here in a second. But for the first time in how long to look at the linebacker position and be like, oh, like they were good. And, they had a few solid, like even Kelly Lawson, who was ended up being the third guy.
Kozlowski kind of supplanted him, but still he was great.
Was solid. And for years, it was like they cannot figure out the linebacker position. And the fact that they went out and did that, and once again, that's 3 transfers at linebacker. They hit on all of them, I would say. That's good.
We really, guys, I need to take a hammer and hammer this point home for you because, guys, for the first 3 years this podcast existed, we had countless episodes where we get on here and go, we really feel good about Gus Malzahn's whoever the hell, but what are they going to do at linebacker? What are they going to do at linebacker? Then they go get these linebackers, and they would go do a press conference, and Gus would go, oh, I like these linebackers. These are real ball players. And we go on our podcast and go, wow, Gus says they're real ball players. They must be really good. Then the season would come around and they're terrible. They're terrible. Like there are linebackers who single-handedly lost UCF games. That's not an exaggeration. That's a real thing that happened in 2023. And that was a years-long problem. Under good DCs, like Travis Williams, guys that we felt good about, Addison Williams, and then Scott Frost and Alex Grinch, who we hate, shows up, and they immediately land 3 linebackers who would have started and had success for UCF at any point during the Gus era. Think about that. Just immediately.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Including Lewis Carter, who, like, assuming he sticks around, which Raising Cane's is suggesting he is. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Lewis Carter, new Raising Cane's ambassador. Shout out Lewis Carter. I think that there is can I call my shot?
Sure.
Remember this guy. Remember this, unless it's wrong. Remember this, guys. I think that I like Lewis Carter a lot. I perhaps like him more than I should. I think there's a very real chance that by the end of his college career, he is one of the best linebackers UCF has had.
Bam. I like that. Yeah.
Calling it.
I mean, I believe
calling it. I'm serious.
That's what I love is that like he can and probably should be back. And that there are the guys, like you just mentioned it earlier, is like going into this, he's like, all right, are they going to have, by the end of the year, are they going to have identified some guys that they can build around going forward? They absolutely have done that.
Yes, without a doubt. Cole Kozlowski is not one of those guys because he's leaving, but I just have to once again remind you, after Gus Malzahn and his staff could not figure out linebacker at all, it was a train wreck 3 years. For 3 years, it was a train wreck. They found this guy at Colgate.
Cole.
They found him at a toothpaste factory, and he was an excellent linebacker for UCF, like an awesome linebacker for UCF.
He had 82 tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. Some other honorable mentions. Philip Dunham.
Can I interrupt you again? Yeah. I'm sorry.
No. All right.
That's it. Okay. He likes that we mentioned him on the podcast. So, well, that's a Trace Trilco joke because Trace texted Bailey and said that he wants you to start saying no when I ask if I can interrupt you for a second. But jokes.
It is nice that you always ask.
Yeah.
So I know you're pretty much going to do it anyway, but
it's courtesy. You know, it's the nice thing to do. But I just have to say one more thing on Cole Kozlowski. I watched multiple times this year. UCF would be losing by like 30 points, and Cole Kozlowski, like, it's 2 minutes to go in the national championship game, and he has to get this stop. Like, it was incredible. I love Cole Kozlowski. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Some other honorable mentions: Philip Dunham, 60 tackles, 3 interceptions, and one of those being a pick 6. Jaden Bellamy, another one, 27 tackles, had a team high 8 passes defended, 1 interception, and then obviously Dylan Wade, who we mentioned, 43 catches, 543 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So, and also one more. I forgot. I don't know why I skipped him when I was reading the list, but Noe Ruelas. I almost gave this to Noe Ruelas. 15 of 17 on field goals. He was 7 of 7 between 30 and 39 yards, 4 of 5 on 40 to 49 yards, and 3 of 4 on 50 plus. Like we talked about him being probably the best kicker in UCF history. Unfortunately, he was wasted on this 2025 team, and UCF really could have used him at other points in the last 5-6 years, whatever it would have been.
It does suck that his legacy just doesn't get to exist because, man, he was good.
Yeah, like imagine having him in 2020 or 2021 like that.
I seriously think in 2020, I think he's good for 2 additional wins.
Well, because I mean, they lost the Memphis game on.
Yeah,
I forgot how.
But it totally changes how you run your offense, knowing that you can get to 55 and the kicker's going to take care of it. Like that completely changes your offense.
Yeah. Speaking of having a lot of, well, I guess this isn't really true. Because speaking of having a lot of honorable mentions, there were really none for breakout freshmen. I just have the one winner.
The obvious choice.
Waden Charles.
Carl Jenkins. Oh.
Waden Charles, 26 catches, 290 yards, 11.2 yards per catch. I was also surprised to find that he also didn't score. I think he had a touchdown called back at one point, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
Because I was like, I swear I saw him get in the end zone. And I was like, wait, it might have gotten called back.
Again, just very few passing touchdowns to go around.
He tweeted, let's run it back, Night Nation. I think the picture he used might have been from the touchdown that he got called back. Because I was like, wait, yeah, that looks familiar.
Who was the player? You got to help me out. Seasons are running together. This is our favorite game where we just can't remember a player. It was the player who had – it was Townsend. It was Townsend who had like 3 punt return touchdowns and just
Yeah.
kept not counting because of holding. I think it happened 2 or 3 times while he was here. But
Yeah.
Wade and Charles had, I think, unless I'm forgetting someone obvious, I believe this was the best true freshman season for a wide receiver since Gabe Davis by a lot.
I think so.
There are different positions project differently. And a strong true freshman season doesn't always mean that guy's a star. But one of those positions where it kind of does mean that is wide receiver. If you can come in at wide receiver specifically and make that kind of impact in year 1 when you're still 18 and you haven't really been through the weight program and they haven't developed you into who you're truly going to be as a player and you haven't learned how to be a college player and you're that good already before all that, I think Wade and Charles has the potential to be an excellent wide receiver for UCF, and it is a huge deal that he is coming back for UCF next year.
We talked about the connection. If again, this is one other thing I'm trying to rely on my memory, which is already really bad. But it was Gabe Davis, right?
So UCF posted a video
that was the case where we say like the best true freshman wide receiver season since Gabe Davis, because Gabe Davis at one of the open spring practices took a liking to Wade and Charles. He's like, who is 19?
Yeah,
and he was something. I don't even remember exactly what he did. It was something on a route that he ran that was very nuanced for a true freshman. And Gabe was like, "Oh, he's nice."
Davis, I mean, he literally called that. That is the video. He just calls him out, and then I think later in the video it was a different route. He just goes up and starts talking to him, like teaching him stuff or whatever. I think if one of the best wide receivers in your school's history is on the sidelines and watches you at one spring practice and goes, "You go to football," that feels like a good sign. So and just obviously UCF holding on to him. I know he had his little emoji antics on Twitter, but announced he's coming back. I don't want to get excited for next season because there's the troubling topic of they still need 4 more offensive linemen that they need to find a start. But God, there's a lot of intriguing pieces coming back. Like a lot of the guys this year, minus like Cole Kozlowski or Phillip Dunham, a lot of these guys who had really strong seasons are going to be back next year.
Yeah. And hopefully, I mean, we never know how long you're going to take to and what level you can return to after an injury. But Day Farmer is a guy that I feel like I've forgotten about too often because I was expecting to see him produce this year. And obviously it was spring practice, right? Where he had the season.
I watched it. Were you there for that one?
I don't think it was the second one, right? I think it was, I wasn't there for that one, but he's another guy who I think that they should have in the mix next year. So
I'm glad you said that. He'd completely slipped in my mind, and that's
honestly
probably should.
He popped up in my mind like 3 minutes ago, and I was like, oh, let me bring him up to Christian after the podcast because I didn't think I'd have a chance to just shoehorn him in here. But then it kind of came up.
Everything we understood last spring before his injury, like he was in line to contribute this year.
Yeah,
that was the.
I mean, he had a pretty we were talking about good true freshman seasons as a wide receiver. Like he had a pretty good one at West Virginia last year.
Yeah.
So you hope that translates. You hope that the recovery from that injury is fine and everything.
Yep.
So that's another exciting one. But next one, uniform of the year.
My favorite one.
What'd you got?
I have gold helmets, black jerseys, black pants, as worn twice this season against West Virginia and against Oklahoma State. I believe it to be the best thing they've ever worn.
Yeah, I have the same one.
Yep. But do you want to explain your caveat? You explained to me before we got on.
Yeah. I actually have it on here. I said gold, black, parentheses, probably versus West Virginia. I just liked the way it looked in like under the sun because the West Virginia game obviously was middle of the day. That was the stupid 1:00 kickoff that made me miss that game. But that I was looking back at some pictures and I was like, I just like the way that the gold helmet shines there. Then under the sun, and against Oklahoma State, it was a 4:00 kick, and it got I think it was kind of overcast, and then it got obviously with daylight savings and all that, got dark. I think I like it better in the sun, so I picked the West Virginia one. It's the same combo.
I think you just like that game more.
I don't think that's.
I'm torn a little bit on what you're saying because the helmet is better in the sun because the gold helmet UCF has now, which I think is my favorite helmet they've ever had in their history. It's such a freaking good gold, and the way it just shines in the sunlight is awesome. I think that especially under the lighting at UCF Stadium, I think the gold accents of the jersey and pants are pronounced more at night, and that's why I like the night version a little more. But it's a good combo either way. I mean, it works for both.
Yeah.
You're never going to beat that for UCF. Gold helmets, black jerseys, black pants. That's the quintessential UCF combo. And the reason I say this is the best thing they've ever worn is because we've seen several different versions of gold, black dating back initially to 2018. The game day game in 2018 was the first time we saw it. This, of all those looks, from that to like the Nighthead jersey version in 2020, this is the most cohesive version of it we've seen, where all of the elements of the uniform, from the helmet to the jersey and the pants, play off each other so well and connect so well that it's just one great look. Like, I know I sound like a broken record. The Polaris stars, the drop shadow, the gold helmet, the white stack UCF decal with the white numbers, it all just works together. Yeah. The black sword stripe with the black jersey, everything plays off itself. It's a perfect uniform combo. And it is like this set, I love this uniform set, but it's like it's almost like the set was made with this combo in particular in mind, and honestly might have been.
Yeah,
And
you've always said it as like it is the UCF look.
Yeah,
and I agree, and I love that. So I mean, as much as any given year, I can say the Space uniform was my favorite one they wore. It's typically, I think, going to be gold, black, just because that is the look.
It's like if and when UCF eventually makes the playoff one day, which if they keep expanding it, I'm sure will happen. That's what they got to wear. Mm-hmm. That has to be what they wear. It's just the look.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing is like I feel like it's almost like cheating to pick a Space game uniform as your favorite from the year.
Yeah, I'm never gonna, and I like the Space uniforms a lot. I always do, but you're right. Like
it's like you're judging it on a completely different scale.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always gonna pick one of the actual standard combos just because for what you said, it would be a little. Yeah. It's cheating.
Favorite game of the year. This is the last one we have.
Do you think we'll disagree?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I have the 34-9 win over North Carolina.
Oh dang! I had BYU. Yes, I also had North Carolina.
I had a couple notes just on this game. I think I said I definitely. I don't know if I tweeted it or said it on the podcast or both, but there are a few things in my brain and a few things that I love as much in football as a team putting together like a long 7-minute touchdown drive. And UCF in this game had some of those drives, like early on, 13 plays, 75 yards, and 637. They had a 7-minute and 44-second field goal drive in the game. And then later on in the fourth quarter, to put the game was already kind of put away. Then 18-play, 93-yard drive that went 10 minutes and 26 seconds. How can I not pick that game?
Don't also forget Frost going absolutely lethal at the end of the second half, at the end of the first half, and calling timeout to get the ball back. And we're like, what is he doing? And then UCF goes and scores.
Oh, I had forgotten about that. And I remember at the time saying, like, remember how mad we would get at end of half scenarios with Gus and how he'd always play it wrong. He'd always do something stupid. Something dumb would happen. And then Frost did that. And I was like, I see colors again. It was great. Nigel Kelly and Braden Marshall both had interceptions in that game as well.
I think, and this is going to sound incredibly stupid, I think that was my favorite home win of the Big 12 era so far. And I know that's dumb because of Oklahoma State in 2023. But the difference to me, and I know that the rest of the season ended up not working out, and I know injuries to Taven played a role, but Oklahoma State in 2023, that was awesome. UCF out of nowhere in this garbage season, like the space game magic comes alive. They're just beating the crap out of a top 15 Oklahoma State. It was really cool. But like, even in the moment of that game, we were all kind of like throwing our hands up like, this is ridiculous. Like, how is this happening? UNC was a little different to me because it was like one of the only times since UCF joined the Big 12 that I felt like I saw the vision of what UCF is trying to be, and that they were very logically, effectively, efficiently just taking it to a Power 4 team and beating them in all three phases. And it was just a more complete game in some ways than I'm like, this sounds stupid as I'm saying it out loud. Maybe I'm wrong. Like the Oklahoma State game would
still put Oklahoma State on just because, it came like right after the losing streak, and I guess right after they beat Cincinnati to end the losing streak. I think that day, I try to remind myself sometimes like that day put a bowl game back on the map or back on like the table for us. So I was like,
I might be wrong.
I think that's the one I'd still give the edge to. But this one, I mean, that one also, this is really one way I want to judge the game, but like that one obviously had the pouring rain and that kind of added a little bit of mystique to it. But this atmosphere against North Carolina was fantastic. And I think that was, it was the best in years until the space game. And it was just an enjoyable, it was one of those that was like the first time in a while, just had a really, really enjoyable day watching UCF without much stress and I mean, I think you mentioned the fact that it was like
what it was is it just felt like old times in a way. And I do think that, I think you're right. I think that was a bad take on my part, but I do think another part of it too.
I see where you're coming from though. It's not, I don't think it's a bad take.
And kind of what's influencing it for me is like the Oklahoma State space game. That's an era that's ended. And I think part of what stood out to UNC is even then, like they won that game. And listen, part of the reason we picked it as our favorite game is also UCF was suddenly 3-0 and we could kind of talk ourselves into more than was really going to happen. But at the same time, I remember thinking that day, and I've thought it in the week since, of everything else that happened. I'm sitting there and watching the way that game was coached, watching the way the team executed. And I'm just like, if they get the roster they need, I can just see Frost doing this to a lot more teams in the coming years. And it just got me excited of like that game more than any other game in 2025 felt like a taste of what this era could actually be once they get the players they need. And I think that's why it meant a lot to me as a game.
Hey, have we gotten the TV numbers for that game yet?
No, Fox never released TV numbers, which like
I was just thinking, I was like, we've said all this, and then even for me, like what added to it is obviously the fact that they beat Bill Belichick, and all offseason it was all about, Belichick at UNC. He's in the college game now, and him coming into the bounce. It's like, what a weird coaching matchup. Scott Frost versus Bill Belichick, and UCF just absolutely dominated. And I loved that. And it was on Fox, and I was going to say it was on Fox, so a lot of people got to see it. I don't know if that's even the case, because for whatever reason, even weeks after that game, we're like, wait, yeah, they never released the numbers for that game, which is like a mystery.
Really unusual for Fox. And I'm guessing if the numbers were great, they wouldn't have hidden that. So you probably know what that means.
Doesn't take away from the game for me, though.
This is so hierarchy of needs here, though. Like, I used to worry a lot about UCF's TV ratings. I will go back to worrying about that when I have less tangible things to worry about, like who's the center next year. Yeah. So we're going to focus on those things for now.
I would never pick the loss for this game, but the space game atmosphere will be burned into my brain forever.
It was awesome.
That was so awesome, and that game deserved to be a victory, especially for what Philip Dunham did. But yeah, that one I felt just was worth mentioning because of the atmosphere and how well UCF produced that game as an atmosphere. But all right, we'll jump into the football news now. Couple things from the portal. Jakari Brown and Jacques Joyner both are the latest to join the portal. I don't have a running list, honestly, but we talked about some of them last week. But yeah, that's another reason why we talked about the bowl thing at the beginning of the podcast. And I think, I don't know if Jakari hadn't entered the portal, I don't even know if he's still able to play. He might still, his season-ending injury, I don't know if that would have, I assume that would have extended to the bowl. But yeah, he and Taven Jackson both planted into the portal. So you're not going to get those two back for this mythical bowl game.
The chunk of this fan base, I'm not.
We already did it. We already did it for like 20 minutes. UCF in the NFL, Mike Hughes, he had an interception for the Falcons in their 37-9 loss to the Seahawks. And then RJ Harvey had a really good game. 17 carries for 75 yards and a touchdown. He also caught all 6 of his targets for 25 yards as the Broncos beat the Raiders 24-17. It was a career high in rushing yards, career high in total yards. His first game going or breaking 100 yards and total yards. He's having a really solid rookie season, and
it's awesome.
Very much enjoying it. I think he has 9 total touchdowns now. He has, I texted it to you yesterday, like 600, somewhere between 600 and 700 total yards. Has been a threat both running and catching the ball, and it's awesome.
We had a text conversation yesterday where if you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time, you probably know I do not follow the NFL particularly closely, but go Bears. And I texted you something along the lines of like, is RJ Harvey having a really good season for a running back? And you were like, he's having a solid season. And like, I just basically wouldn't let the conversation go until you'd agree that he was actually having an excellent season.
So I don't
know if I'm right, but I just wanted
I looked at his actual numbers, and I think I hadn't realized that both as a runner and receiver, like if you add it all together, like as an all-purpose back, he has been solid. He's been good. I didn't realize he had 9 total touchdowns. And a part of it is J.K. Dobbins went down with a season-ending injury, and now RJ has a bigger role. He's also playing on a team, I think it's now 11-2, if I'm not mistaken. So that all helps. But, yeah, no, it's been awesome just to see him. He's been up for Rookie of the Week, I think, 4 times this year. Yeah. It's been awesome. And it might be 5 after this week. It's obviously season or the week of the NFL is still wrapping up as we're speaking. And
you work for Pewter Report, so your opinion carries weight. So thank you just for providing us with this insight that RJ Harvey is awesome.
Yeah. He's one of my favorites ever, and I love seeing him have success, and it's just awesome. So shout out to him. Game of the week. I think the only game on campus this week. Men's basketball is off this week, so we will put some spotlight on UCF women's basketball. They're 7-3. They host Morgan State, who's 1-10 on Sunday at 2:00. I believe this is the second to last or third to last non-conference game, and then UCF women's basketball gets into conference play. So, all right, that snuck up on me too. I guess they started a little bit earlier than men's basketball, so that's why. But yeah, tweet of the week. Tweet
of the week this week is going to be slightly different because much of the fodder for tweet of the week we covered in the earlier segment of the podcast. So instead, we are going to do bowl game decision of the week. It's not what you think. It's not related to Notre Dame or UCF. It is the decision of the Bailey looked at my phone and cheated of the Pop-Tarts Bowl to, as it turns out, not come to the Bounce House in 2026. Matt Michelle reported that they will actually that bowl game, along with the other FCS Bowl, well, Florida Championship Sports, not FCS, and you get it, whatever. The Orlando Bowl games are all going to stay at Camping World Stadium while it undergoes construction. None of them will be coming to the Bounce House. A UCF Board of Trustees meeting had kind of led us to believe last week that the Pop-Tarts Bowl was coming to the Bounce House. I want to be clear that I'm not joking when I say I'm devastated. I have a deep emotional connection to UCF, and I have a much newer but equally deep connection to the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Equally is crazy.
I love the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I, even courtesy of my father, have a Pop-Tarts Bowl mascot costume. I don't even know if you knew that.
I did.
I love the Pop-Tarts Bowl. It's like appointment television for me more so than the playoff. I'm serious. I was like visiting family 2 years ago and was like, I need to, like, in another state. It was like, no one talked to me and watching the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Yes.
You're going to hate this. I've missed both of them. I've been busy. Something has come up both times.
Okay. Well, then I'm sorry. Like, look, I'm sorry that that's happened to you. And if you need to unpack that with a therapist or something, I'd get it. But you got to watch it this year. In fact, I think we should go this year. I think you should come to Orlando. Like, I love the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and I'm just really – that moment where I thought it was going to come together with UCF was the happiest I've ever been. And the only way that I think that this can be made up to me is if UCF actually goes and makes the Pop-Tarts Bowl next year. So that is now what I'm rooting for. Before, I didn't care. But now that's what I want.
Great. Yeah, no, that sucks, but that would be fun to go. I wonder – we'll talk about it after the podcast is over. Yeah, that's it. That is it for episode 309. We will be back next week with episode 310. Until then, you can find us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being with us. We will talk to you next week.
Bye, everybody.